Sarah Mitchell sat in the sleek waiting room, her daughter Emma's small hand tucked safely in hers. The morning sun streamed through tall windows, casting gentle patterns across the polished floor. Sarah smoothed down her cream-colored skirt one more time, trying to quiet the nervous flutter in her chest. She hadn't planned to bring Emma to this interview. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who usually watched Emma during job interviews, had called that morning with a terrible flu. Sarah had stood in her small apartment kitchen, phone in one hand, Emma's breakfast in the other, facing an impossible choice. She could miss this opportunity, her best chance in months, or she could bring her daughter and hope for understanding. Hope had won out. Emma, just 4 years old with soft curls the color of autumn wheat, sat perfectly still beside her mother. She wore her favorite yellow dress, the one with tiny flowers embroidered on the collar. Sarah had packed a small bag with Emma's coloring book, some crayons, and her worn stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hopper's. She'd explained to Emma that this was very important, that they needed to be quiet and patient. "Mommy has to talk to some people about a job," Sarah had said that morning, kneeling to Emma's height. "Can you be my brave girl?" Emma had nodded solemnly, those wide blue eyes full of trust. Now, sitting in this modern office with its glass walls and efficient air conditioning, Sarah felt the weight of that trust. It had been 14 months since Emma's father had left, 14 months of struggling to pay rent, of choosing between groceries and utilities, of sending out resume after resume. She'd worked as a bookkeeper before Emma was born, had been good at it too. But the years away had left gaps in her resume that employers questioned, doubted. The receptionist, a young woman with sharp eyes and sharper heels, glanced up from her computer. Her gaze moved from Sarah to Emma, and something shifted in her expression. Sarah recognized that look. She'd seen it before. "Mrs. Mitchell?" The receptionist's voice had turned cool. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. This is a professional interview. We don't have facilities for children." The words landed like stones. Sarah felt her cheeks warm, felt Emma's hand tighten in hers. "I understand," Sarah said quietly, keeping her voice steady for Emma's sake. "My regular childcare fell through this morning. I called ahead, left a message explaining the situation. I was hoping—" "Company policy," the receptionist interrupted, not unkindly but firmly. "I'm sure you understand." Sarah did understand. She understood she was about to lose another opportunity. She understood that being a single mother meant making impossible choices. She understood that no matter how qualified she was, how hard she worked, how desperately she needed this chance, there would always be another reason to say no. She stood slowly, gathering Emma's small bag, blinking back the sting in her eyes. She wouldn't cry, not here, not in front of Emma. "Come on, sweetheart," she whispered. "We're going to go now." Emma looked up at her mother with those trusting eyes. "Did you get the job, Mommy?" Before Sarah could answer, the elevator at the far end of the waiting room chimed. The door slid open and a man stepped out. He was in his late 50s, silver threading through his dark hair, wearing a navy suit that spoke of quiet authority. But it was his eyes that caught Sarah's attention. Kind eyes, the sort that had seen life's complications and chose gentleness anyway. He paused, taking in the scene. Sarah standing with her daughter's hand in hers, the receptionist looking uncomfortable, the manila folder of credentials Sarah had prepared so carefully now clutched against her chest. "Is everything all right, Jennifer?" he asked the receptionist. Jennifer straightened. "Mr. Harrison, I was just explaining our policy about—" "I'm sorry," Sarah interrupted softly. "I should go." "I don't want to cause any trouble." Thomas Harrison, founder and CEO of Harrison Financial Solutions, looked at Sarah, then at little Emma in her yellow dress, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Something in his expression softened. "You're Sarah Mitchell," he said. It wasn't a question. "You're here for the senior bookkeeper position." "Yes, sir." "I was, but—" "I reviewed your resume last night," he continued, walking closer. "Impressive credentials. You worked with Patterson and Associates before your daughter was born. They're good people. I called John Patterson yesterday. He spoke very highly of you." Sarah felt something catch in her throat. Someone had called her reference. Someone had cared enough to check. Mr. Harrison crouched down, bringing himself to Emma's level. "And who is this young lady?" Emma looked at her mother for permission. Sarah nodded gently. "I'm Emma," the little girl said. "I'm 4. This is Mr. Hoppers." "Mr. Hoppers looks like a very fine rabbit," Mr. Harrison said seriously. "Does he like coloring?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. Mr. Harrison stood, turning to his receptionist. "Jennifer, would you please take Emma to the break room? I believe there's still some apple juice in the refrigerator, and the table there is perfect for coloring. If you could stay with her for about 30 minutes while I conduct Mrs. Mitchell's interview?" Jennifer blinked, surprised. "Of course, Mr. Harrison." He turned back to Sarah. "I have a daughter myself. She's 26 now. But I remember those years when every day felt like juggling glass balls, praying none would drop. My wife passed when Claire was 8. I learned quickly that life doesn't pause for policy." Sarah felt tears threatening again, but for a different reason now. "I thank you. I didn't mean to cause—" "You didn't cause anything," he said gently. "You showed up. You kept your commitment despite difficult circumstances. That speaks to character, Mrs. Mitchell. Now, shall we talk about this position? I have a feeling you might be exactly what we need." The interview lasted 45 minutes. Mr. Harrison asked thoughtful questions about her experience, her approach to problem-solving, her thoughts on financial accuracy and client relations. Sarah found herself relaxing, remembering who she was beyond just a struggling single mother. She was capable. She was skilled. She was still the woman who had once caught a significant accounting error that saved her previous firm thousands of dollars. When they finished, Mr. Harrison walked her back to the break room. Through the glass wall, Sarah could see Emma at the table, showing Jennifer her coloring page, her little face bright with concentration. "The position is yours if you want it," Mr. Harrison said. "Standard benefits, health insurance, and we have a company daycare on the 2nd floor. It's for employees' children, open from 7 to 6. Emma would be welcome there until she starts school." Sarah stared at him. "A daycare here? We started it 5 years ago. Too many good employees were leaving because they couldn't manage childcare. Seemed like a solvable problem," he smiled. "Besides, my Claire works there. She's the director. Majored in early childhood education. Said she wanted to help families like ours was." Sarah couldn't speak. The relief, the gratitude, the sheer overwhelming rightness of this moment. It was too much. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means." "I think I do," he said kindly. "We all need someone to believe in us sometimes, to see past the complications to the person underneath. You're going to do wonderfully here, Sarah. I'm certain of it." 6 months later, Sarah stood in that same waiting room, now greeting a nervous young father, who'd arrived for an interview with his baby daughter. The regular sitter had canceled. He looked terrified, apologetic, ready to leave. "Come with me," Sarah said warmly. "I'll show you where the daycare is. My Emma loves it there. Then we'll get you to your interview. Mr. Harrison always says life doesn't pause for policy." And as she led him down the hallway, Emma's laughter floating up from the floor below, where she played with other children, Sarah understood something profound. Kindness multiplies. One person's grace becomes another's courage. One open door becomes many. That morning in the waiting room, holding Emma's small hand, Sarah had been given more than a job. She'd been given a reminder that the world still held people who led with their hearts, who understood that behind every policy was a person with a story worth hearing. And now, every day, she tried to pass that grace forward. Because that's what kindness does. It doesn't just change one moment. It ripples outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully know, creating a gentler world, one open door at a time.